Hello, everybody. Darrell Owens, Legacy Maker Sports Network, and we are back for One on One. And today, episode 13. Who says episode 13 is unlucky? Not today. I got my man, Pastor J. Patrick of Liberation Church and former Hampden-Sydney basketball star with me today. Pastor J, how you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm doing amazing. Considering everything that's going on, my family's healthy. We're good, so I'm good. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. And speaking of that, I like to do a check-in on everybody, see how things have been going. So how have you and the family have been handling COVID with everything that's been going on? Of course, all the stuff, the unrest in the country with George Floyd and the protests and the riots. How have you and your family been able to handle everything that's going on during these tough times?
Well, I tell you, we've been handling it with God's grace alone. I tell you that. It's been a very exhausting last few months, and my wife is currently. We're fortunate enough that she stays at home and is kind of doing some early homeschooling with our 18-month-old, and so she was already kind of in the routine of staying home a lot, and her days were mostly spent in the house, so it wasn't too much of a transition for her. But for me, the biggest transition, and this is going to sound real superficial, but the biggest adjustment for me, man, is I love to go out to eat. And, all the restaurants closed down on me, man. It was awkward driving
Heartbreaking.
home. And it was different, man, driving home and not being able to, stop by Old Charlie's and get a some chicken tenders or something. Like, it was strange. Right. But outside of that, we were able to manage through it very well, still are. As you know, we have a homeless shelter as well for homeless military veterans, and we have 38 guys that live there, and
right.
none of them tested positive, which was a blessing.
Awesome.
Because it would have been really difficult because they live in close quarters. So it would have been really difficult to social distance them. So we just made the adjustments, man. We made the adjustments where we needed to. And fortunately, we've been able to get through this relatively unscathed for the most part.
Awesome. I mean, and, it's definitely been wild times. We've been dealing with quite a bit, with everything with George Floyd and so on and so on. And we've been able to kind of every time you think we're getting back to normal, a little bit of a setback, but I feel like things are starting to come around a little bit. I feel like we still have a long way to go. That's just my opinion on that. But do you feel like we're getting closer, or do you feel like it's just something that we got to continue to just work on?
If I'm honest, Darrell, I don't think we'll resolve this in our lifetime, to be honest with you. I think the conversations are now starting to be had that should have been had, 30 years ago.
Right.
And I think that the pressure is being applied where it needs to be applied. And so I think we're just going to have to just continue to apply pressure. What concerns me about all of it is the drivers of the ship are Generation Z. It's the the early 20s to early 30s,
right,
are kind of pushing the majority of the pressure. And what concerns me is that generation traditionally changes subjects very quickly. So because it's a social media age, it's hard to stay on the pulse of anything for longer than a couple of weeks, because there'll be new headlines next week, right?
Right.
And when the headlines shift, then the conversation shifts. And when the conversation on social media shifts, then everybody's attention shifts.
Right.
And so I'm just praying and I'm hoping that we have enough people in that generation and our generation that will stay focused on this, that will continue to work on it, continue to have the conversations, not just because it's the buzzing, trending topic right now, but because it needs to be talked about. Right. It needs to be addressed, and changes need to be made. So I think we're going to be working on this for the rest of our lives, and I think we should. I think we should commit to it.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and I agree with you 100%. We are in a generation. I mean, that we hope that everybody keeps their mantle going, and it's just not the flavor of the week. You get a little nervous
Right.
when you see that, and you say, "Oh, here we go." I mean, because we can look at COVID, for example. COVID had our minds and everything set for 2 months, and then
Yeah.
this happens, and we still hear about COVID, but we don't hear about COVID the way we heard about it 2 weeks ago. And so
And
now we
almost
hear
like it disappeared.
it's almost like it disappeared. I mean, we know that there's still, and we know that there's still cases out there. We know that stuff's
Mm-hmm.
going on, but it's just not as important. And
Mm-hmm.
not to, I'm not trying to throw presidents or anything. I'm not trying to make it a political thing. But you had the president say the other day, he's like, he told him to slow testing down. So when you hear stuff like that, you're like, okay, well, guess we'll see how that goes when the time comes. But yeah,
Right.
we'll just hope that they can keep the mantle going and keep things rolling. Now,
Yes,
Pastor,
sir.
Pastor Jay, of course, we know that you have the love of basketball in your heart, but can you tell us where it all started from? When did you first say, "Man, basketball is my heart and soul"? Where did that come in for you? And where did your love of basketball come from?
Wow. So, um, wow, I've never really thought about that question, but the answer is relatively simple, um, and it's three things. So the first thing is that it was the rite of passage in my neighborhood. So my
Yeah.
cousin had a dirt basketball court,
Oh yeah.
right beside you. You remember those dirt basketball courts, right?
Yeah.
And and it was the rite of passage in the neighborhood. So you had to, if you wanted to play, you had to learn how to play. So
It's so true.
so it was almost like you didn't have a choice. Either you were just going to learn how to play, or you were just going to kick rocks and throw sticks by yourself because everybody else was playing basketball.
Right.
So because of that, I kind of zeroed in and kind of tried to figure out how to play. Secondly, I watched. You remember that game when Jordan was playing where the Bulls were playing the Cleveland Cavaliers in the playoffs, and
Yes.
Jordan hit that last second shot where he drove to the middle lane and kind of hung in the air and double pump
Yeah, just
over.
left
I
poor
think it's
Craig Elo. Poor
Craig
Craig
Elo.
Elo.
Craig Elo. So I watched that game live, and that shot, that moment, that feeling, that cemented in my mind that this is the greatest game ever developed, and I want to be a part of it. I want to figure out how to be a part of it. Thirdly, was the first high school basketball game I ever went to was one of the state's greatest rivalries, and that's Gretna and Alta Vista. And
Single A,
I
baby.
was, yeah, and
Yeah.
I was about, I guess, maybe 6 years old, 7 years old. And my sister, who was in high school at the time, took me to the game with her because I don't know if my mom was just trying to keep me up for have an eye on her or what, but for whatever reason, my mom made her take me, and I went, and I kid you not, Darrell, I felt like I was in Madison Square Garden. I mean,
The energy.
I'm so I'm so serious, man. It was so turned. I mean, it was like it was the best thing I had ever seen in my life. It was the greatest feeling. Um, and the rivalry was so tense, and the games were so, I mean, they played so hard, and they were cool. And true story, after the game, there was a guy playing for Gretna named Tim King, and to date, he's still probably the best high school basketball player that I've seen in person. And I got an autograph from him, and that cemented it. I hate to get off course, but I want to just tell this why it's fresh on my mind.
Oh, tell it,
But
tell it.
it all came full circle. Because look, watch this. I got his autograph, right. Maybe I don't know how many years later. I guess fifth, maybe 10 years later. I'm playing for Gretna. I'm the star for Gretna. Tim King comes to the game. Tim King comes to me after the game, and just as a gesture of things coming full circle, he asked me for my autograph.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
it was crazy,
that's
crazy
awesome.
moment. It was a crazy moment, crazy moment.
Ain't nothing like that. That's a pretty cool deal right there. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the moments in sports that you get that, some on big level, on the biggest level, on the smallest level, that sometimes you can always have those memories, and that's pretty cool
yeah,
that he came back and gave you the autograph. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, eventually, we talked about, your high school days at Gretna, and that would
Mm-hmm.
lead to a college career at Division III Hampden-Sydney College, where y'all had
Mm-hmm.
pretty impressive records over the years. But probably the biggest
Mm-hmm.
thing that I got a chance to research and look, still, the single game 3-pointers made, 8 in the game, I believe. I could be wrong. It's still held by Mr. J. Patrick. So you still have that single game record for most threes made in a game. So just tell us about your days at Hampden-Sydney and what that experience meant to you.
Wow. So, part of the story that a lot of people don't know is that I actually started out at Longwood, and
Oh,
so I started as a freshman at Longwood, and so what happened is that the coach that recruited me to Longwood, basically, I don't remember if he got fired or he resigned, but there was a coaching change my
right,
first year. There was a coaching change, and the new coach really, he wanted to bring in his own people and
right,
bring in
right,
his own players and all that kind of stuff. And I was pretty positioned. I was positioned to kind of, to stay on the team and still get some relatively good minutes and all of that. But
right.
what happened? But what happened is that we used to play pickup games with the guys from Hampden-Sydney.
Ah,
So during the summer, we would link up and play pickup games with the guys from Hampden-Sydney. So what happens is we're playing pickup, and I got to know Marcus Gregory and all those guys, and we became friends. And so we would hang out together, things like that. But then when things changed was when a guy named Griff Ulrich kind of just struck up a conversation with me during one of the pickup games,
right,
and he kind of just threw it out there. He was like, "Man, he's like, you fit in really good with these guys. Like, what would it be like to play over here?" And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? We got a coaching change at Longwood. Blah
right.
blah blah. Me and these guys really gel. We really mesh. And they played hard. Like, Hampden-Sydney guys are different. Like, they play with a sense of discipline and effort that is really different, and you really can tell it when, and even, I mean, back then anyway. Um, and so I was just attracted to it. I was attracted to it, and it was the relationships that I had built with the guys from Hampden-Sydney that kind of lured me over there. So I transferred. To Hampden-Sydney my sophomore year, and it was an amazing experience. Sorry about that. I lost. Man, let's see.
And, all right. So you were saying, Pastor?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, it was an amazing experience, and it took a little bit of adjusting. Everyone throws out the whole all male thing, and everybody feels like that's an issue. But the thing is that was never an issue,
Right.
because we, long was a short trip, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and Sweetbriar and all those all girl schools. So that we had 99 problems, but girls wasn't one of them. I mean, that's real talk. That's real talk.
That's awesome.
So but the basketball was great. The fellowship, the camaraderie. It's a special place. I'm gonna be honest. It's a special place, and I had some adjusting to do because I was always used to being a key player, a star player, And at Hampden-Sydney, there were no star players really when I
Right.
got there. It was just really a team concept through and through. And so we had a really deep bench, and I came off the bench for most of my career at Hampden-Sydney, and I wasn't used to that. But at the same time, we won. Like we were winners, and I think we won the ODAC all 3 years that I was there. So it was a sacrifice I had to make, but I was glad to do it once I matured and once I grew up. I had some growing up to do.
Right.
And I had to gain an understanding of the value of team and the value of winning, opposed to the value of shining and being the go-to guy, and all that kind of stuff. I had to mature a lot to take on that new role.
So it kind of taught you. It taught you how to be, to grow as a person instead of being like single. You thought it brought you to that team aspect of things, and
Yeah,
you can't beat that. You can't beat that.
yeah.
Now,
I always
go ahead, Pastor.
well, I always say, the thing about sports is that sports is one of the greatest teachers of life lessons that you'll ever find. I advise
Right.
all parents to at least expose your children to sports, because and especially if you can find them good coaches, because there's so much that they learn about life. There's so much they learn about leadership. They learn about teamwork, discipline, work ethic, um, being accountable. It's just amazing. And so yes, Darrell, I learned a lot. I grew as a man on that basketball team, and some of those lessons are still with me to this day.
Awesome. Now, you left. You graduate from Hampden-Sydney, and then a couple of years later, if not before then, you decide, or you get the calling to become a pastor. How did all that happen? How did your journey from college, go from there to becoming a pastor, and pretty much to where you are today?
Very reluctantly, very reluctantly. I had no desire at all to be a pastor. Um, but it was a natural evolution, because I used to actually be the guy on campus that would walk around with my Bible sometimes. I
Right.
would be in the cafeteria, just studying my Bible, and I became kind of the guy that when other guys were going through things, like I would be the guy that they would just sit down with and ask questions. So, for example, like if a guy's mom got diagnosed with cancer,
Right.
right? That guy would find me and be like, "Hey Jay, what does the Bible say about that? What does the Bible say about disease and healing and all that kind of stuff?" And at that time, I didn't have the answers. But what I'd do is I'd say, "Hey, I don't know, but I'll study it and come by my dorm room later, and we'll go through it, some scriptures together."
Right.
And that kind of organically turned into like a thing where, guys would come to my dorm room for encouragement, like, and sometimes it would turn into Bible study. Sometimes it would turn into prayer, but I just did it, and it just happened naturally. And when I graduated and moved to Richmond, it was kind of the same thing. I started a home Bible study very organically, just with some of my close friends. Jason Holman, you know him.
Right.
Brandon Randall would come. Those that were close enough to Richmond that would stop by from time to time, and we would just have Bible study, man. And it went from like 4 people in my living room to, on one Wednesday night, we had about 27 people that started
Wow.
coming.
Wow.
And from that, it kind of opened my eyes to there's something here. There's something I need to develop. And I didn't want to do it. Even to this day, sometimes I wish that it was still a Bible study, only because passion is hard, man.
If people truly don't understand.
It's hard, man. It's hard. It's hard work. But so it's all happened really naturally, really organically. And like I said, I mean, there were times where like I was like Moses, and I just pleaded with God, like, I don't want to do this. Like, God, pick somebody else. Like, I'll do anything but this. And but God kept, just kept picking at me, kept
Right.
like, no, you're gonna do this. And eventually, I end up pastoring a church.
Yeah, I mean, and let's see, it's almost, if it's not, it's been 10 years, correct?
Yes, sir. 11 actually. 11
11
this year.
years, yeah. Time
Hmm.
flies. I think I remember maybe by year two. It doesn't seem like that time has flown by so fast, but
Right.
I think that's probably when about the time I started going there, and it was like, man, I can't believe it's has grown into what has grown in just the last, in the last couple of years. I mean, we've talked about
Hmm.
it multiple times where, we knew that we were outgrowing buildings, and you knew it
Hmm.
kept happening and kept happening and kept happening, and now we are where we are, and it's a beautiful
Hmm.
thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see. That's why I say I know it's hard for you. Being being a pastor, there's a lot of expectation. So I can understand, like, definitely going through those tough times, but you
Hmm.
persevered, sir.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
All right, y'all. So now it's time for my favorite part of the show. It's time for quick ones. All right,
Hmm.
Pastor Jay, are you ready for quick ones?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're
Let's
gonna
do
break
it.
them out for you. We got a couple for you. All right, you can do one word answers, or you can explain yourself. I give the people that option on there. Most people like to explain this stuff because they like to break down the answer. So it's up to
Mhm.
you. But when you're
Okay.
ready, sir, we're ready for quick ones.
Let's do it.
He's ready. All right, sir. First one: sport that you secretly love.
Baseball.
Ah, baseball. Why? What made you get
Hmm.
that itch in baseball? Why do you like baseball so much?
Well, it was actually the first sport that I learned how to play. I learned how to play baseball before I learned how to play basketball. And it's just one of those games that it requires a lot of skill.
Hmm.
Um, it requires a lot of teamwork, and I think it's very underrated. I think it's a very underrated game, and
Yes, they be sleeping on
it's
baseball.
yeah, it's very underrated.
They definitely be sleeping on baseball. I played a couple years in high school, and
Hmm.
it was so much fun. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just the atmosphere. It's just a different type of game. Just a different type of
Yeah.
game.
Yep. Yep.
Next
Yep.
one. The NBA is supposed to be coming back July 31st. We'll see if it actually goes down. There's been some speculation I guess in the last couple of weeks on how that's going to go down. As of right now, we
Hmm.
have a tentative date. But in your mind, if you're looking at it right now, if they actually play, who do you see winning the NBA championship?
Lakers.
Lakers. Easy,
Yes, sir.
easy, easy
Easy.
money.
Easy.
Yeah,
Easy. Easy.
I gotta
Easy work.
agree. Easy peasy. I
Easy.
gotta agree with you. I feel the same way. I think this is it was just everything that's gone on this year, from Kobe Bryant at the beginning to now. I feel like the motivation is just going to be there. It's going to be hard to beat them, just on that
Yeah.
emotional front. So I guess we'll see there.
And I'll say when it comes to LeBron, the way he approaches the game at this level is something that's really dangerous,
Right.
because it's almost like he prepares for the finals. He doesn't even it's like he's thinking all year about the finals.
Right.
In the way he prepares his body, in the way he prepares his team, in the way he builds his team. It's like this guy has made this into a science, and it's almost like he's learned how to navigate the peaks and valleys and work it out so that when he gets to the finals, he's at his best, he's at his optimum.
Right.
And so I think that's a dangerous He's like a basketball chess player. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's his moves are real strategic, and so I think they got the advantage, man. I think they got the advantage.
It's gonna be to me. Like I said, it's just gonna be hard. All around. I
Mm-hmm.
think emotionally, it's gonna be hard. Maybe the Bucks contend with them, but I just think the Lakers had the depth, and
Yeah.
that's just my opinion on that. Now, next one. Name a person that had you starstruck when you met them.
Well, since we're on a sports show, I
Mm.
met Shaq last year.
Ah,
Uh, yeah, I met Shaq. It was kind of cool. I posted it on my timeline. I was in Georgia. I was in, I think, Atlanta, Georgia, or Augusta, Georgia,
mm-hmm.
at a ministry assignment, and there was this huge basketball tournament, high school tournament happening, and Shaq was there. I don't know if he was recruiting. I don't know if he was sportcast. I don't know why he was
Right.
there, but he was there, and he was in the lobby just chilling. Like, I mean, he wasn't, he didn't have no security guards or whatever. He was just hanging out with everybody else. Had a tank
Right.
top on and some basketball shorts, just sitting there eating his breakfast. So I met him, and that was real cool, man. Because it's always that awkward moment where you see somebody that's famous, and you don't want to interrupt them because they're constantly interrupted,
Yeah.
and you don't want to be that guy. But then at the same time, you kind of can't help it because when am I going to ever see Shaq again,
You're
right?
right. You may never see Shaq. You may never see
You
Shaq
know,
again.
so I had to just bite. I had to just say, you know what, I'm gonna just be that guy today. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I was like, man, would you mind if we got a picture? And he was real cool about it. So that's it.
That's awesome. I think there's a couple people I've had on my list, but there's one that I saw, and I wanted to go speak to him, but I didn't. And that was
Mm-hmm.
Donovan McNabb. I saw Donovan McNabb in the Atlanta airport. He was eating.
Mm-hmm.
He was eating too, and that's another reason why I didn't bother him, because he was eating. And then a kid comes up with a Syracuse jersey on. I mean, the timing. I'm like, man, I need this kid. If I had the kid with the Syracuse jersey, I'd be all right. I could walk up to him, but but he's probably the one. I walked past Cam Newton in the airport, didn't realize it was him until 2 seconds later. But the Donovan McNabb was one that was in the sports world that I was like, oh my God, he was right there. I didn't say nothing to him. I just he just walked right past me. But being in this field now, I've walked past quite a few people and just be like, maybe next time. We'll see. We'll see.
I got a funny one for you though. That's not sports related. So
Okay.
I also last year met somebody that was really cool. So last year in the airport, I met Tasha from Power.
Oh, for real? This is a big rich town. Yeah.
And it was right when the show was like really, really popping, like really,
Right.
really, and she was walking through the airport too. Like, man, she looked like a teenager. Like, very unassuming, very unassuming. It was real cool to meet her too.
That's awesome. Wait a minute, Teen Tasha or Tina Angela? I just had to ask. It's okay, Pass.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
I ain't gonna make that happen to you, sir. I ain't gonna make that happen. All right, last one on quick ones, Pastor. How should I word this? The best best cake you've ever tasted.
The best cake?
Best cake you've ever tasted.
Red velvet.
Ooh.
Red velvet cake with what kind of icing is that they have on it?
I think it's like cream, not cream cheese.
Yeah, something like that. It's like cream cheese with walnuts in it. Like, red velvet is the undisputed champion for me. But I'm only from one particular person that makes it. My aunt makes. I have an aunt that makes red velvet cakes, and I've never had anybody's that's comparable to hers. Like, I've had other people's. I've tried it.
It just ain't the same.
And it's not even close. It's not even close.
And that's no disrespect. It's just it ain't on that level.
No, I ain't on that level, man.
I think my mom used to make a chocolate on chocolate cake for me every year for for my birthday. And so for me,
Okay.
chocolate on chocolate was one, but another one, my aunt Boo Boo, she used to
Hmm.
make a strawberry cake, but it had the confetti chip icing on the top, not the one with the sprinkle chips, but like the look like chocolate
Hmm.
chips, but different. Man, she used to make that for me like every year. Between her and my mom, I was like, those two cakes do it for me. Those
Wow.
cakes do it for me.
That's good stuff. That's
uh,
what's your favorite Bluebell ice cream?
wait a minute now. All right, so I would say my favorite Bluebell ice cream would probably be. Well, I used to love Rocky Mountain Road, but they never had that one here anymore. It was like a
Okay.
Rocky Road ice cream that had walnuts in it, and it was a monster. But I'm gonna go with Millennium. It's got like 95 different types, like almonds and pistachios, and it's got a whole bunch of different nuts in there. But it is delicious. So Millennium is
Okay.
my favorite. Millennium is my favorite. I love
Millennium.
it. Yeah, Millennium, like the woo. So it's like a cow, but it's like millennium. So I'm going with that. That's
Okay.
my favorite. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. 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 Got it.
All right, Pastor Jay. Look, we truly appreciate having you on. But before we go, is there any special projects you have going on, or that you want to let us know about? And also, we want to know about your legacy. We're Legacy Maker Sports. We want to know about your legacy. What type of legacy you want to leave when you say, "I'm just going to retire and sit back and relax." What type of legacy do you want to leave?
Yeah. So first, the only real project that I have going on, man, is our church reopening.
Right.
I've got I've got a few other things that are later on in the year, and I won't bore you guys with that. But if
Mhm.
anybody's out there and you're looking for a church, if you're looking for, I know this is a sports show, but hey, I mean, sports people that love sports go to church too. So
Touche.
if you're out there and you just so happen to be looking for a church home, a place of community and a place of spiritual growth, then try out Liberation Church. Check us out on Facebook. Um, you know, drop by. We're going to be starting to have services again in July and August. So look us up. I think you might enjoy what you find. In terms of my legacy, um, Darrell, you know this. The mission at our church is to love people, to show
Yes.
kindness, and to serve change. And so my legacy is probably, I would want it to be the latter part of that mission, and that's serving change. I want
Right.
my life to be one that I serve and it caused change because I served, because I gave of myself, because of my willingness to get involved and help people and be kind to people and make a difference And so I would like to be able to think when I'm 75 and I'm sitting on my porch that I can look back at the things that I had my hands on that are now generationally changed for the better.
Right.
And so now my grandchildren live in a better Richmond than I did. My great grandchildren will be a part of Liberation Church.
Right.
And even when I'm gone, and they'll have a place of hope, and we'll have schools and different things and leadership academies and again programs for the homeless, and it'll be a long list of people who were helped and their lives were changed because of the things that we had the guts to do. And that's what I want my legacy to be.
Awesome. Awesome. I will say this. I feel like in about 20 years when we have Wells leading, maybe 20, 25 years when we have Wells leading things, I think we'll be in pretty good hands. I've already seen a taste of it a couple months ago on the stage. So I think we're going to be in good shape once Wells decides to take the reins down the road.
Yeah.
And you put down the mic and say, all right, Wells, it's on you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now, like I said, I truly appreciate you coming on, Pastor. And like I said, you mentioned it just a couple seconds ago. Not everybody may be into church, but if that is the case, maybe this ain't the episode for you. But hopefully, this episode touched your heart in some form or fashion. Pastor Jay,
Mm.
I truly appreciate you coming on. Thank you all for joining us for episode 13 of One on One with Darrell Owens, the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Until next time.
All right. Peace.